So without further ado, my name's Kathy Heil, and Brittany Brittany is the marketing manager at Storyteller and is an extraordinaire of all things marketing and planning, and has put together just some tremendous resources we think will help you in the long run be more productive and drive greater ROI of your future video shoots. So let's get started. The reason that we're having this webinar today, we've done a lot of webinars in the past, and thanks to those who have been on them in the past, there have been a lot of common challenges that have bubbled up, and we thought that today we could address some of those as far as giving you insights in the expertise that we've accumulated over the last probably 10, 12 years of video, to distill those down and make your time, your investment more valuable. So we'll kick things off with just a few key points of video, power of video. I think we all would be living under a rock if we didn't recognize that video is a powerful marketing tool today. Overcoming some of the challenges that we have identified as common challenges among many folks who have responded to webinars in the past, as well as walking you through the tools in the worksheet that will be a great resource to customize your particular video shoot as you plan in the future.
So we really wanted to start out by showing you a few stats. You may have seen them before, but I think they're just really important to just let them sink in for a minute. So just walking through each one of these, 90% of users say that product videos are helpful in a decision-making process for them as they're shopping. 75% of executives, so C-level people, high-ups in companies, watch work-related videos on websites at least once a week. So that's a huge deal. 80% of users recall a video they viewed in the last 30 days. If you think about how long that is, that's huge retention. And then 92% of mobile video consumers share videos with others, so shareability. So when you really stop and think about, these are big percentages. We're not talking about 20% of people. We're talking about the majority of people are saying that videos are really helpful for them. And so I think what we can really take away from that is that you cannot afford to create video without having a strategy. And so we really want to focus on how do we help you create a strategy. And we know that's something that is kind of a new concept for a lot of companies and businesses, is creating a video strategy that really works for their business. And this was a problem that Kathy and I kind of identified as we were kind of talking about what we should present to you in this webinar today. And we see that people just really have a hard time getting started. So that's kind of where we came from when we were preparing this webinar. So this is just a general little chart to show you kind of the importance of having video for each stage in your buyer's journey, and that this isn't the world anymore where you can just have one video on your website that accomplishes every goal, right? We have the needs for blogs and sharing things on social. Your content has to be optimized for search. We have tons of different website pages and product pages, and we do email nurturing and landing pages, and then we want to create advocates with our customers and get reviews and testimonials, and there's no way we can do all of that with one video. So it's really important, as you're thinking about for your company, how do we create more video that checks off more of these boxes and helps us fill in this really robust video library that helps us accomplish all these different goals as we're going throughout our process.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway there, Britt, is having a strategy. And I think if there's one thing that we've seen through the years is companies coming to us saying, we want to produce a video. And we always start that conversation with understanding how you're going to use it, where it's going to live, and what do you hope to get out of it. But this worksheet is taking it a step beyond that of just how do you want to use it, but it's, how do you take that one video and use that as the foundation of building a strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've asked a lot of people, we poll pretty much everybody in our webinars, what is your biggest challenge with video? And while there's a lot of different answers that are out there, these are kind of a roll-up of the common ones that we hear. So we just don't have enough time. We don't know how to fit it in with all of our other initiatives that we're doing. We don't know how to get started, kind of showing you how many different possibilities are out there. So I don't know how to get started. We don't have the right resources to do it the right way. That might be internally or externally, either one. I don't know how to best capture our content or our messaging. That's a huge one we hear too. And then I just don't have enough budget to create video. And so, like I said, when we were really thinking through what we want to present to you and how we want to help you through some of these common struggles, we really wanted to kind of address head on a lot of these issues, helping you figure out a way to get started, how to maximize the time that you do have, how to figure out which are the right resources to do a video the right way, understanding what are your most important messages to capture first, and then saying, if you're going to spend X number of dollars, how do you know what to spend those on and what's going to be the most important, and then how do you get the most for those dollars that you invest. And so that's really where this tool that we're going to show you today really was born from, really trying to take all of these challenges that we know that you all have and create something that will help you kind of get past a lot of those.
So there's two resources that Britt has created. The first you've seen before, and it was sent as a follow-up before you joined on today's call. It is called Identifying Your Key Messages for Video Workbook. And within it will help you really take a 10,000-foot view of your organization to think strategically and really to align with your internal team before you get started to say, what are the most important products and services to our organization? Brainstorm common questions that you get from your customers, from your prospects, from your sales team, your customer service team. Really be thoughtful and planful in asking your team the right questions and really thinking about these considerations. And then being able to dive into what are the key messages for your video? How can you create some impactful FAQs to address some of those most important needs that your teams have to close the business? And to really make sure before you do anything that you look critically to understand who the audience is that you're creating these videos for. So I think you'll find this workbook to be really helpful, whether you're working with your internal production team or you're working with an external production team. I think it will also save a lot of time on the back end when you finish your video projects, that there's complete alignment from everybody within your organization, because that can be a challenge as well.
Yeah, so if you all receive this via email, but if you don't have it or miss that email, it's available in the little handouts tab, so you can click on that little arrow and download it. This is the workbook. There is also a worksheet, which is what we're going to cover next too. So if you want to go ahead and download both of those, you can look through them as we're working through them. So we'll send them in the follow-up information as well. Okay,
so Britt, before you get to the worksheet,
yeah,
the intent is that you actually go through the workbook, because the workbook the worksheet will be really easy to fill out if you've done your homework and you've gone through the workbook. Right. Is that the methodology that you're thinking?
Yep. So when we created the two pieces together, we know that it's really hard to know what questions to ask first. So that's what the workbook is for. The worksheet is meant as a planning tool to help you, like, once you're ready to take that information and start planning it for a video shoot. So that's kind of the purpose of those two pieces and why it's a twofold tool. So let's just jump into the worksheet. I'm going to just jump over to my tool here. Okay, so this is, I'm actually switched to, I have a blank version here. Okay, so this is our tool that we're going to be going through. So basically, just as a quick overview, the top section is really going to be used for when you're working with a specific company. We're going to talk a little bit about using an overview video as kind of how we've known as sort of an about us over the past several years. That's kind of what people call it. So this kind of roll up of everything, the most important messages of what you do, and then breaking those down into short key messages, and then using frequently asked questions. So I know that that's a lot to look at right now, but we'll dive into each one of those more deeply. So I just wanted you to get kind of oriented with the tool itself. So, not that. There we go. So as we are going through this, we created a imaginary company, and we use the country club because we think that it's something that hits on a lot of different areas. It's really easy to understand. It's a little bit business focused. It's a little bit consumer focused. And so hopefully there'll be a lot of parallels to your business that will really help you understand how this tool works.
So walking through this, we recognize that all of your messages and your characters and your unique attributes to your business will be different, but we thought if we could connect some dots in how we actually use this tool, this would be a pretty universal organization to understand. So if you look at the top of the worksheet, there's a couple of considerations that are going to be really important in your planning. So when you think of audience, we're referring to the audience as who are you creating this video for, or these videos for, what personas, being really aware of where they are in a buyer's journey, and what tools you need to move that audience through the buyer's journey. Then we'll help you think about characters in a way that maybe you haven't before. We're going to talk about internal spokespeople as well as external spokespeople that can then present itself in a testimonial-like fashion as well. As you sit down with your team working through your workbook, one consideration is going to be location. Where are you going to produce and shoot these videos? And think of one location. As we look at the efficiency of taking a one-day video shoot and turning it into 6 videos, realistically, you're only going to be able to shoot those videos in one location. So what is that ideal location for your messaging? And then we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the need for thinking about what B-roll, what are the visuals that you are going to need to accompany the messages that you're going to create? Because video, as a reminder, it's very visual. It's a visual medium. It isn't about just talking heads. So we're not going to go too deep into that, but these are some of the primary considerations as you begin your planning.
Yep. And if you haven't taken a second to download this, feel free to use that handouts tab again, and you can follow along with us as we're walking through it. So again, as we were thinking about this, our imaginary country club here, we, like I mentioned before, overview videos are really important for really setting the stage for your company. And so we wanted to start with that as our foundation. If you don't have that today, it's really essential that you have one and that it communicates the key messages that are critical for selling your most important products and services, right? So we really want to focus on creating just that one video in this piece. We choose a final time of 2 minutes because that's really the attention span that people have for video today. With it being so prevalent, you just don't see people spending time on 6 or 7 or 8 minute videos the way that they used to. So working on creating a really efficient message that communicates your key messages as quickly as possible is really our key. There's a place for you to put in what buyer journey stages in there, so that really helps you think through how am I targeting the messaging of this, who are the best people for me to choose as spokespeople for this. Everybody's answers for this distribution channels are going to be different, which is why we left them as little check boxes that you can fill in. But for most people, we probably would use web or overview videos for website pages, maybe email marketing, maybe social media every now and again, but there, we'll talk about why some of these other types of videos are going to be better choices for social media. But there might be something other, like maybe it's an event or a gala or something like that you do that you might want to use it for. So as we move into key messages, we're just going to kind of tell you the thought process behind the specific videos that we chose for the country club, and then hopefully you can kind of see how that would apply to your business. And if you have any questions as we're going through this, feel free to put them in the questions pane, and we'll have some time at the end to talk about it. So the first key message video that we're going to talk about is that we know golf is important. Obviously, it's a golf club, country club, so we can't not talk about golf, but we want to pick a really specific message, and that's that golf membership is a good investment. So not just that it's a good idea, not that the course is really pretty or that our facilities are really great, but that you can get a lot out of that money that you're spending on a golf club. So we thought through who's the best person to tell that story, and we think it's Sam, who's a golf member. He has a family that visits the club regularly. He does business on the golf club. He hosts events at the golf club. So he's constantly using all the different amenities that are available to him as a member. And so he's really getting the most out of his investment. So he's a great person to share his story about how he's getting as much as possible out of his membership. And then we move into a key message of weddings. So not only do they have golf there, but it's an event space for weddings and other kinds of events. So we want to talk specifically, this is a totally different audience that we're talking to now, that is brides and grooms who are looking for a place to have their wedding, right? So, but we want to make sure people know that you don't have to be a member to host your wedding at our club. That's a really common misconception about country clubs, right? So that's our key message. So who do we choose for this? This character is a bride. Her name is Sarah Peterson. We've got this information down here if you're following along. So Sarah is going to talk about, she just got married 6 months ago. It was a beautiful wedding. She had her pictures outside by the clubhouse. She had all of, her reception and wedding in one place. She's not a member. She had heard of the club before, but had never visited it and never considered getting married at a country club before. And so she just has this great story of not considering that and finding out that this was a great option for her and her now husband. So again, a great story of not somebody from the business talking about how great weddings are there, but a real story of somebody who's been through that process before. And then our third key message for the overview video is that hosting your event at our country club is like having your own personalized team of experts. So now we're going to switch a little bit because we think the best person to talk about this is going to be Krista Shepard, who's the events manager. She's somebody who's lived through hundreds of events, weddings, galas, banquets, high school sports banquets, and lots of different things. So she has a myriad of knowledge about all the different things that can happen at your event. She's really familiar with specialized diets and decorating the room in different ways and all of this kind of thing. So she's going to be the best person to talk about how you will be at ease in our event space and you don't have to worry about anything. We've got it all covered. So those are really the three people that are going to be best illustrating your key messages. And then we want to interview a fourth person, and that's going to be this person that's really going to tie this whole thing together. So we need somebody to be kind of the bookends. And we think this is the best when it's somebody who interacts with your customers. They're consistently, they know the common barriers that people have. They know what people love most about in this case, the country club. And so we've chosen Ryan Starr, who's our general manager, and he's going to be the person that's just going to be able to speak to what's our general vision, what's the big picture. And so he's a great person for us to interview for that specific piece.
So if I do the math, Britt, if it's a 2-minute video and there are 4 characters, that's only approximately 15 seconds per character.
Yeah, it's really, when you add in the B-roll and stuff like that, we're really only getting a short snippet overview, and that's all that this is meant to be. We want to capture people's attention and just whet their appetite. So this is one video, and a lot of people stop here when they're doing a video shoot, and this is something that would probably take approximately a half day to do on its own. And so you make the investment, you do a half day, and you quit, you stop, right? That's what a lot of people do. Well,
which is why you don't have a lot of video in your video library.
Exactly.
Right?
So what we want to do is help you create a plan that will take that one video and then say, okay, we're already here, we've hired the team, we've got everybody in place. How can we get more for that with the same group of people that we have by just investing a little bit more to shoot for a little bit longer and get more videos? So what we're going to look at now is 5 more videos that we can get by expanding that out to a full day video shoot. So when you go through this on your own, you'll notice after you fill in the top section, the short key messages piece will automatically fill in on its own. So I've got that set up so that it's dependent fields for you, because I want you to know that these are fuller versions of the same key messages. you won't have time in the same video shoot to create brand new key messages, nor do you want to. You hopefully spent a lot of time really thinking through what are the 3 things that I really want to communicate. And so now what we're doing is taking that 15-second clip and expanding it out to a 60-second clip. We're able to show some more video of things that happen, some visuals, and we're able to really think about the different pieces and let them breathe a little bit more. So you can see that the characters are the same. We've got Sam and Sarah and Krista again. And so using that time to really
develop that message.
Yep.
So now you might have talked about that particular element for 15 seconds, but there are 3 or 4 more elements that you want to include in that message.
Right. Yeah. So that's the next piece. So this piece should come together pretty quickly. Again, you can think about, we'll be able to use these on specific landing pages for our weddings program and events program and the membership. Maybe they're on the more specific website pages. These would be great for social media. These are basically going to be like testimonial videos. So you can see how these start to boil down into a little bit more specific places that you can use them. Maybe the email is lead nurturing and that kind of thing. So really thinking through how we're going to use those.
Could you use those for ads in paid
Absolutely.
ads?
Yeah, PPC, that'd be a great way to use them. So now we've got 4 videos in
we're cranking
through the 1-day shoot. Yeah. And then the next piece that we really, this is something that people don't often think about, but frequently asked questions. And the reason why we think we can add these on easily is we're going to use the same characters, and it's asking them just a few more questions, and we can get 2 more videos out of a full day shoot. So you can see, again, we've used Krista, who's our events manager, and Ryan, who's our general manager. And we're thinking through, what are these common questions, common barriers? What are the things your customer service people hear about? Or the salespeople, what are the barriers and the common questions they have to answer? And these are just great ways to start whetting people's appetite. These are probably going to be more awareness level, but it will really depend on your business. So just as an example, we're going to have Krista talk about Friday weddings and how we can stretch your budget with Friday weddings. And then she's going to talk at the end about, if you want more information, download our weddings guide. So we're really thinking about that. How can we connect A to B and moving them through the journey? And then we're going to have Ryan, who's our general manager, talk about, is your club family friendly? And so he's going to talk about all the different families that come and the different activities they do. And then he's going to try to drive them to the calendar events and say, we've got non-member events we'd love for you to check out and come and see what the community is like here. These are going to be great for blog posts and social media, really more shareable for people most of the time. And like I said, probably more awareness level. We might be able to use them for SEO purposes and really connecting with new visitors that maybe don't know anything about your business.
And really email and a sales follow-up. If you look at that Friday weddings, is a great way to stretch your budget. If an event manager is talking to a potential bride who says, this isn't in my budget, it's a really great way to provide some value as a follow-up that Friday wedding might fit into that person's budget. Yeah. So it's a great sales enablement tool as well.
Right. So let's flip back over to our deck here. We've just got a few key takeaways of how you can kind of use this, again, to grow your video strategy. So
we hope at this point you can recognize that if you put the work in the front end of this planning session, you'll get a whole lot more on the back end. We're not saying that it's a quick and easy, exercise, but it is something that will drive a great return on the back end, going from a 1-day shoot or a 1 video shoot to 6 videos in the same time. This isn't your whole video library, but it's a good start. If you have some and you're looking to add some video today and you're looking to add to it, here's a way for you to add 6 more at one time. If you don't have any video, it's a good way to get started. Video is reliant on visuals, and you've heard that in the beginning. We're going to bookend that because it's very, very important to tie in on the back end of this conversation. Think of yourself as a viewer in what you connect with. Do you connect with just talking heads when you're watching video, or do you connect with visuals that help connect the story? So think about your video from from a consumer perspective, because we're all consumers, and what resonates with us probably resonates with your own customers and prospects. And video doesn't have to cost a fortune. If you can extrapolate an ROI of 6 videos with 1 day, that's a much less expensive cost per video than just producing 1 video. So those are some key takeaways we hope that resonate with folks on the call today.
Yeah, so we have just about 4 minutes to go through some questions. So if you have any questions about the tool itself, about how to make the most of video, anything like that, feel free to type them in, and we would love to address them.
So there's one question I see here, Britt, and that is how long, from a production standpoint, should somebody expect to take 6 videos to be edited? And that's a pretty good question. We can't speak to every production company because I'm sure everybody has their own process. And internally, I'm sure folks have their own process too. But for Storyteller and the work that we do, if we were to produce 6 videos at one time, it would probably take us 4 weeks on the back end just for planning purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Josh asked if there is a source for the stats that I recommended earlier, and they are from a blog from HubSpot. If you just search for Video Statistics 2017, it's one of the first one that comes up, and there's a bunch of different stats on there. So yeah, and somebody is asking if we can send the downloads for both the workbook and the checklist, and we absolutely will. As part of the follow-up, we'll send links to all of those for you to use. So we will definitely do that. So Lynn says, you mentioned characters. Do you prefer real actors or real people for these type of videos? I think we would almost always say real people. As much as you can choose real customers, real people that work for your business, those are going to be the better stories. So, it kind of depends on your business, but as much as you can use real stories, I think people can really, they have a sense for that, and could probably, we have a really good BS meter as consumers now, and so I think that they would know.
Yeah, it's the most authentic way to tell your stories. Do you have Scott asks, do you have a price range or estimate for an all-day shoot? So there's a couple elements that go into a shoot. One is the actual video time, and that's usually done, at least for us, a half day or a full day price. So and then there's obviously the production time of putting the stories together, and then the editing time. So there's different steps. So Scott, I'm not sure if you're talking about each part of the process or an entire video shoot. So there's another question that you, as part 2, do you price it separate than the back end editing? Typically we don't. So I think your question is how much for an entire video shoot to produce 6 videos rather than each piece of the process. So I can't speak for every other organization. Thanks, he says is accurate. Thanks, Scott. I can't speak for everybody, but we produce 95% of the time. It's a complete project, not just a standalone part of the process. And so for 6 videos, again, there's a lot of variables of location and things like that, but it's feasible to think that for under $10,000, we could produce 6 videos like this that we've just mapped out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was kind of our goal, is to really help you, like we said, do it for as inexpensively as possible. Yes, Bill, we will be sending this exact recording to you with the webinar audio and video together, as well as the resources. So we'll send all of those to you as a follow-up. And then Terrence asks, Terrence asks, what do you do when a client wants multiple locations or props, etc., and how many locations is too much? So the what we've mentioned before is locations is going to be something that drives up cost, and so as much as you can keep it to one location, you will be able to really retain the cost. Obviously, that's a lot of the stuff that Kathy's talking about with your variables. So it's absolutely possible to do it in more than one location. It just will cost you more. So just something to take into consideration. Yeah, so Terrence is saying this has been an issue for us, and I think it's an issue for a lot of people that are around the country. And so, thinking about like maybe you have an event that's coming up that you can add an extra travel day on for your team, so they're all in one location or something like that. There's some ways to get around that so that you pay for your team to move around the country instead of for your video team, because it will actually be cheaper for your team than for the video production company most of the time. So we've got a lot more questions rolling in, so we really appreciate it. We can stick on for another minute, but I just want to make sure I say thanks to everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day. We hope that this was valuable. Please let us know if you have any feedback. Like we said, this is kind of a brand new tool that we created, and we hope that it's something that you guys can use. So we'd love your feedback on how you're using it, how well it's working, if there'd be something that would be better if we added it. So again, we really appreciate it. Thanks, and we'll send the recording onto you, and we'll stick on here and answer a few more questions.
Thanks, everybody. A few more questions coming in. Do you have any examples or samples you could share that demonstrate how this worked to one or more of your clients? We'll include some video examples in our follow-up, some links, so you can take a look at that. And then what are other ways to cut costs for the typical home-based small business with micro budgets? If you think about video production is a function of time. So we're mapping out 6 videos. Maybe your budget doesn't support that. Typically think about half day is probably the least expensive way to approach a video shoot. And then the fewer number of visuals that you're including, like you can do some pretty straightforward information or key message videos without a lot of video. I mean, it's really, it's the production quality that you're looking for, and it all depends. If you're really just looking to be efficient with your budget and you don't care as much about the visuals, well, that's a lot of talking heads, and you probably could get through more video. So the more elements that you're including, the more characters you're including, and the more time you're including, the more money you're including.
Right. So another thought would be, instead of, as you're going through that workbook, it's asking you to think through what are the products that drive the most revenue, and then mapping each of those to a key message. So maybe it's that for you as a small business, you want to focus on your most important message, so that you can have something with a little bit more visual element to it, so that you can have one really good key message video in a half day or something like that. So that's an option as well. Thanks for these great questions. If you guys have any more, we can stick on for just another minute. Otherwise, we will make sure and send the recording to you and all the resources, some links you guys have requested. So we really appreciate you spending the time with us today, and we want to be conscious of that your days are busy, so we won't hang on for too long here. So thanks again. We hope you'll join us on a future webinar.